This is the Viserai deck. I took first place last week's Armory at D6 Games here in Anchorage, Alaska. Just going to kind of go over it, show you what's in the deck. Not going to do much of what I use for sideboard. The sideboard is separated out over on this half. Main board's over here. I will have a link to FabDB with all the sideboard guides that I currently have up and running. I am still testing into a few decks, so that could change as the list progresses and decks change. So we'll start with the non-attack actions here. So first one's Gorgarian Tome. Turns on Viserai, draws you a card. Pretty self-explanatory why this one's in the deck. Running 3 copies of Sonata Arcanix. When this card hits, it's really good being able to pitch a hand of 2 blue attack actions to pay into this to net you a little bit better attacks than just swinging for like a Spellblade Assault for 2 with Go Again. If you have a Mob Skies or something like that, being able to pitch, find those reds. We run all 3 copies. Revel in Runeblood, non-attack, attack. We go into Revel for 5 on a Mortar-Tide turn. They're just insane. The amount of damage you can get off of these, especially if you can Mortar-Tide Revel, or Mortar-Tide Revel, Swarming Gloomveil into 2 Revels, and then pitch for Rosetta Thorn, I believe is 16 Arcane just off of those 2 Revels you play. Or 14 plus the 2 off the Swarming. Word-Tide, really good, never comes out. If you would make a Rune Chant, make that many +1. This card can get really insane on those big turns that you have. We are running Rainbow Mobs in this list, Mob Skies. The ability to give your attacks Go Again, flash them in with Creepers, to give something else Go Again. It's just a really good value card, and being able to pressure those on hit effects like red mob into a red shrill. A lot of the times they're going to block that out most likely because they don't want to take that 3 extra damage from the rune chants. Tome of the Arknight I am currently testing. When it hits, it's really good. Card's insane when it hits. When it doesn't though, it's okay. It turns on Viserai, I guess, so you can play Tome of the Arknight into a Shrill if you miss, and then set up for next turn maybe, but yeah, we're still testing this one. I took out Lead the Charges to try this out. Become the Arknight, pitches for 3, blocks for 3. Also fixes hands. It's really good to be able to find what you need on demand. Really good card to arsenal. So those are all the non-attack actions main board. So now we'll move on to the attacks that are main board. 3 Swarming Gloomveils, the ability to just for 0 for 3 pitch, make a Rune Chant, 0 for 3 Go Again. The last effect there, if you can Mortar-Tide into any Revels and be able to get the last effect of they can't block arcane damage, is just game ending. Running 3 Amplify the Arknights main board. Don't ever take them out. There's 3 for 6 a lot of the times. If you can pair them with a Mob Skies attack, you can usually come in for free, or usually only costing 1 resource. Spellblade Assault also synergizes really well with Amplify the Arknight. So you can Mob Skies Spellblade Assault into an Amplify the Arknight, and that Amplify the Arknight isn't going to cost you anything to play. We are running red and blue Shrills. The reds are in there just because you can pitch, make a Rune Chant, swing the Shrill. That's 7 damage. Blues are in there because they could come in for 5. Or if you play Mob Skies before him, making the Rune Chant on the backside is going to allow you to get that extra 3 buff off of Shrill. Dread Triptych's just a really good card, especially when you can get it off. On a Mortar Tide turn, it's really good, even just by itself. Just a really good blue pitch to have. Then the Vexing Malice Blues are a really good way to finish out a game. So even if you don't have Go again, but they only have Null Rune 1, or Arcane Barrier 1, and they're at 1, being able to just pitch and play this usually will end the game right there, unless they have something like an Oasis Respite. So that's all the main attacks in the main board. In the main board, we are running 21 blues for pitch value. Just figured I'd throw that out there. For equipment, the only chest piece we're running is Tunic. Only boots we're running is Spellbound Creepers. I have decided against Aether Iron Vein because I like the ability from Tunic a little bit better, being able to just dump the hand. Usually you'll get 2 resources out of it in a game, but being able to dump the hand into, like I was talking about earlier, those Mortar Tide turns with Mortar Tide swarming, double Revel, and then use the Tunic counter to pay for Rosetta. Or even being able to use the Tunic counter to pay for Spellbound Creepers to flash in your next non-attack for free. For glove pieces, we are running Vexing Quillhand for the Arcane Barrier. It's the only reason it's in the deck. Grasp of the Arknight, we run into everything else. Blocks for 3 throughout the game, and it allows you to filter the hand and make Rune Chants. The 2 crowns we're running here, this one's purely for the Arcane Barrier against like Kano and Icelander. And then Crown of Providence is just an excellent card to be able to help cycle the hand when needed, but at the same time it blocks for 2. And if you run into a Command and Conquer, usually you're arsenaling something like a Mortar Tide, a Revel, something you don't want to lose from the deck without playing it. So being able to block with this, even though you have to put it to the bottom of the deck, there's lots of ways to shuffle in this deck. Between Become the Arknight and Sonata, you're going to be shuffling it. So putting something like that on the bottom of the deck isn't really that bad. And then the only weapon we are running right now is Rosetta Thorn. It's the only weapon I believe any Rune Blades are running at the moment. It's really hard to beat the value that you can get out of Rosetta Thorn. Now we'll move into the sideboard attack actions. So for those aggro matchups, we're running Rika Corruption. Really good card into things like Fi and Dash. Decks that want to race you and don't want to block and keep all their cards to race back, being able to strip a card from their hand is really good value. Meet and greets, we run for a couple different decks. We run them into Dromai for sure during the race matchups. Like I said, a lot of the other aggro decks aren't going to want to block or pitch even for Arcane Barrier, so being able to come in with this with Go again and then finish with Rosetta is really amazing. Currently we're running 1 Runic Reclamation. Now this is for poppers, like being able to blow up dragons, and then also run it into Icelanders so you can hit the Insidious Chills. We are running 2 Ninth Blade of the Blood Oaths. We're running these into like Oldhim Icelander things where we're going to have to play a little bit slower, a little bit smarter, figure out different lines than what we normally take into any other matchup, so we can use these to have big pop-off turns. And usually if you're doing that, you're only pitching pain 3, or a lot of the times you're not even paying to play these. You're playing like a red Mob Skies into this, and they're usually blocking with their whole hand. So that's it for attack actions. They are also poppers for Dromai. Let's look at the sideboard for non-attack actions. So we are running 3 Rattlebones. We are bringing those in to race. We are bringing these in just for that, really, just for the pure aggro matchups. Other than that, they're kind of hard to use. I really don't run them against any Guardians or any of the ice decks currently. Read the runes and Runeblood incantations. We bring those in for Oldhim, Icelander. Runeblood incantations we'll bring in for Dromai. And then let's move to just some instances in D-React. So immovables, we're bringing in Oldhim, Bravo. Oasis Respites is in there for Bravo, Kano, Icelander. Arknight Shard is there for Oldhim and Icelander. So that's the deck I'm currently running. It feels really well into most matchups. The Bravo matchup I still do have to figure out a little bit more and play test some more into, but other than that, the matchups feel solid so far. Haven't really found anything that's too detrimental or that's an automatic loss to right now. So like I said, I will post the FabDB link with this. I will make sure this is all up to date as much as I possibly can. I do plan to make some more content, try to get a little bit better at this. This is my first video, so I will be doing that some more, uploading more, hopefully have some games recorded and uploaded as well, and then we shall see how this weekend's armory goes.